Hi everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to import an image sequence if you haven't, or create an image sequence for your project. So I'm going to use Premiere Pro. Make sure that this is recording. Okay, it is. Alright, excellent. So let's go back to Premiere. So what I'm going to do with Premiere, I'm going to click on New Project. I'm going to give my project here a name. We'll make this sequence project, or assignment 3 sequence. Up here is where the project is being saved. Um, since this is just a one-time use, I'm just going to save it in my desktop, but normally I do create a folder and organize everything and keep everything in one folder, similar to how we keep everything in one folder for Maya. But for today, it's okay to just, since this is just a one-off of making an image sequence, here I'll give this a name for the sequence that we're going to make. And then for files that we're going to use, I'm going to go to my desktop. I know where my video is being saved. And here it is, this reference video. I'm going to hit create. And since my Mac is really old, it gets where the scratch disk that I have um, um, for Premiere, by default, the default settings won't show the video. So if you do have this issue, but I doubt your computer is as old as mine, what you're going to do, you're going to go to File, scroll down to Project Settings, and under General, yeah, under General, the renderer, I'm going to switch it to just Software Only, and then I'll hit OK, and now it should play. There we go. So this is my sequence, and so this is in the video format. I have it as a .mp4. Whatever format you have it, you're going to import it into Premiere, and then now when you export it, File Export, or right here at the top, Export. I'll give it a name. Sequence. And then here where it says location, I'm gonna give it. I already have this as a file, but just for more practice, I'm going to have a new folder here. So I'm gonna click on new folder, give it a name. I'll name this as a test sequence. I'll hit create. Give the save sequence as, save as, and then here where it says format, I'm gonna click on the H.264 and switch it to a JPEG. And now I'm going to hit export. Actually, let me double check. General. Okay, yeah, everything else is fine. And that was just, I want to make sure everything was, there wasn't anything else. I'm going to hit export. Might take a little bit of time. You can always fast forward this part again because it's recording and then also exporting this at the same time. Bless its heart. I think I will pause the recording just so that the RAM isn't being over overworked. Okay, so now that my sequence is done, it finished exporting up here. So you'll see your um, project still there as such, and then you'll go to your saved location. So remember, I had a test sequence, and there we have it. Do, 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 do. All right. So now with this sequence, um, I'm going to delete this one just to um, relieve some space here. And what I'm going to do, this is the original one that I have here. So once you have your image sequence done, I have my folder already set. So remember, file is set project, assignment 3, set, and then you'll open up your scene, file open scene, and it would be the latest one, which is this one here. I'll click open, and this is what we have here. So what you just saw before. So I just wanted to make sure go through that process. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick one of the orthographic cameras. Please make sure to pick an orthographic camera, whether it's a side or front view. I recommend not doing the top view because it's a lot more rotating, but do not import your image. Do not import your image in the perspective camera because it'll just take up the whole background and you cannot adjust or transform it or move it out of the way, which is a really big issue. So with my side camera selected, I'm going to go to View, Lies, Fairy Tales. I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to make sure that my image sequence is in the Source Images tab of Assignment 3. Ha 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 ha. Do that first. Drag and drop. And now, go back to Maya. View, Image Plane, Import Image. And you should see, because we set our project folder correctly, we'll see the Source Images tab. ARM sequence. I'll click inside it and select the first image. I'll hit open. There it is. It's in the way right now, but we'll get that situated. But you'll notice when I drag my mouse across the timeline, nothing is playing. Okay? And that is because we need to tell Maya that this is a sequence and that we're not just importing that first image, but that we need to continue as the frame progresses across the timeline, that we pick a new image for it, the respective image for that frame. So I'm going to go to the attribute editor, which is right here. And with the image plane selected, you'll see all the attributes for the image plane, the display mode, all of that. And we're going to go to the image name, and right below it, we're going to click on Use Image Sequence. And there we have it. And you'll see it start loading along the timeline. And I'll close this now, and so now, whoop, 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 all that. And my thing is a little bit longer, so let's do 200 frames down here. There we go. Okay. So now I'm gonna press spacebar to get into my 4-camera layout. And now with my perspective camera, you can create a new camera if you want. So under panels, perspective, I can click new. I can make this my shot cam, and I'll lock this one. This is the one that I'm gonna just save all of my settings. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna rotate my camera because I'm gonna find it a little bit easier to rotate the image plane instead of the control, the master control here. So I'm gonna do that. Push that back out of the way. And with my film gate on and the resolution, just to have the width and height showcasing, I'm going to zoom in here. Actually, not zoom in. Just here. So what I want is I want enough space on the left-hand side for, maybe I'll move them a little bit. I don't want them directly in the center because then it's just not as appealing of a composition. But he does do more motion here, and then there's going to be a can here that I do eventually use. I will go ahead and just add the, there we go. Okay. And so now that I'm satisfied with the placement, I'm going to just lock things that I'm not using. So the ground, just lock it. Even though I'm going to turn off my geometry selectable or my make polygon surfaces selectable. I'm still gonna lock this one just in case. So I'm gonna lock selected, and then yeah, because then it's still in the way here. So I have my controls. I have my clock control here. No mouse. There we go. So that's all done. And why do I have that going on? I think I scaled that by mistake for at a moment and didn't realize it. Yeah, I think I did. That was weird. Okay, I'll leave it as is. It's not the end of the world. Okay, deselect. Oh, I guess I did. One. There we go. Oh, yeah, I must have scaled it without knowing. Oh, I think I scaled as I was scaling the ground. Okay, so sorry, solve that. So now that I have this, I've ruined this. One job. Okay, I'll place this a little bit more out of the way so that way I can really see what's going on with anatomy, the anatomy of the arm. And now what I'm going to do is set my preferences. So what I want to do, if you remember when we've set keyframes in the graph editor, we would get our graph lines would look, let me deselect here. Our graph lines would look like this, they'd bounce, all of this. But we want to start off in stepped mode. Reason being is that with stepped mode, we're not getting all the in-betweens. We'll add the in-betweens later. This is just a lot easier to see what you're mapping out and what you're planning, and not being distracted by what the computer is doing. And so when we do it in step mode, we're holding out a position. So let's say I had a rotation held out at value 30. And then I switch it maybe at frame, and this is at frame 2, and maybe at frame 10, it drops to value of 10. So with step mode, we hold it out for a certain amount of frames. In this case, it's for 8 frames. And then the next pose is held out for a certain amount of frames. And so what it starts to look like, steps, right? Because we're holding out the position for X amount of frames. So with step mode, we're going to tell Maya that whenever we do set a keyframe now, it's going to be in step mode. And so we need to change our preferences to do that. So I'm going to go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, and I'm going to go to the Animation tab right under Settings. And under Default In, I'm going to go to Clamped, and then Default Out is the more important one. We're going to go to Stepped, and we'll hit Save. And so now anything that we do add will be in step mode. So the first things first, we're going to, as a reminder, whenever you are setting keyframes, you are going to select all the controls and press S. This is a camera. This is the side camera. So with the perspective camera, we're able to see the camera nodes of other cameras. So what I'm going to do is under Show for the shot camera, I'm going to hide cameras and deselect it. I'm also going to select this camera, or I'm actually going to click on Lock Camera here. So then it's locked without having to, what did I just hide? Show. I clicked on polygons for some reason. There we go. I just want to lock the cameras. So what I'm going to do, start from the base, and I'm going to adjust the angles of of my arm and start making the first pose. And remember, when you are posing, you want to highlight one axis at a time. Do not grab this blue circle because this will move everything multiple directions. And you want to make sure, notice that my channel box is only showing one channel moving. It's going to make your life a lot easier. Just trust me. I'm going to bring this up a little higher. So this is closed. Might do it a little open there. And then alright. So I'll drag select just in case, and I'll press S. And then I'll move to where the next motion starts to happen. Whichever body part starts to move. So here it's the wrist at frame 8. And even though it is just a wrist, there is some slight movement with the rest of the body. It's not as abrupt, so it's going to be very slight. And the rest is going to be more in the actual wrist, since that's what we're seeing. And then always scrub through. So now you'll see, as I scrub through, it's going to start looking more like a stop motion effect. So here, and now there's like a place for this next part of the control to continue, like to open and close here. So scrub through. And then here we get to the pose. I kind of like this, breaking more of this. See how this looks. If not, I'll undo it. Kind of like that. It's more of a swing from the elbow. And then make sure to set keyframes on everything, even if it's not moving. That way you're locking in those positions when you do add the in-betweens. And you can also turn on auto key down here at the bottom. Okay, so now we're holding it for X amount of frames. So maybe right here at frame, yeah, frame 34. We're gonna hold it out for that long. Again, I drag select everything. I'll press S. And here, I'll rotate the base back. getting a little foreshortening here, but that's a lot of movement. So let's adjust this a little bit more. So let's bring this back a little bit. And bring the elbow control back to right around here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah. And then maybe right around here we'll bring this a little bit more. Okay, sorry for the long pauses. It's just I go through, um, start getting into an editing mode for, okay, for all these. I think here I'll adjust this a little bit more. Mm -hmm. And then, so select, select all of these as keyframes. Cut that. There we go. Let me undo that. That did not. Deleted the wrong one. Okay, so I'm just deleting that keyframe. So if you ever want to delete, select the controls that you want to delete, select, and then you'll see cut or delete here. Okay, there we go. Drag select, press S. And then this is going to hold out for a certain amount of frames. Kind of, sort of. So here, there's a slight ease in there. A slight movement back. I'll rotate this key. Maybe we'll hold this out until 58, and then we're going to ease in. So right around at 63. Maybe I'll do a slight opening here. Pose it at 68. And then there's this gasp. So select this control, move it up. And then again, middle mouse drag to adjust the claw channel. And that's a movement over here. Oops. I'm going to bring this back a little bit further. And maybe it'll slight ease in here even further. So almost still holding this pose. But just enough movement to give a little bit more life. So drag select, press S, and then it's going to hold this pose out a little longer until frame 94. And then here, we're going to drop. It's going to be slight here. And then dropping the wrist control and a slight close. And then another further dropping. Again, the base isn't moving as much, but we just to give it a little life, so not that the whole arm is still stiff. I do a slight adjustment, and then where the most movement is at the top. Yes. But you still want to keep things looking like they're connected. This character's thinking about it, so then we'll drag select all of this. Up until 114. Then there's a slight movement of the claw. And then a slight closure. I'm going to drag select all the controls to make sure that they're still locked. Movement. So here I'm going to bring this in. adjust the shoulder control here. Rotate this down. Rotate this in. I'm going to uncurl this to keep this a little bit open. And always scrub through, seeing that this makes sense. Oh, I think I rotated this by mistake. I don't know why I did that. Zero. There we go. So let's press play just to see how this is looking. Ooh. So yeah. Okay, so now we're going to just brace for the anticipation here. So at frame, see we're at 132, and then here, frame 144, 141, sorry. Bring this down. Just want to make sure, there we go. So bring it. And at 147, we're still leaning in just slightly. And now we could treat this as a hold since this is already pretty curled up. And we could do it a little bit more. Okay, and so just have one more here, 147. Just gonna curl this in. Cut this. And then with drag selecting all the controls, we're gonna hold this. Right at 183. So I'll press S. And then I'm gonna add in a little anticipation, so I'm gonna just slightly curve in the elbow and the wrist a little bit. Actually, a little bit of the shoulder too. I'm going to drag select it all at 186, press S. And then here, a slight push out. And start from the base. So push out there. It won't be as much there, but still some slight movement. Let me check how this is looking in the perspective camera. Okay, it's pretty aligned. Let me go back to the shot cam. And again, at 197, we're going to keep just looking at what the reference image is doing. Let's make this a 220, see if I can add any more. Okay, and let's press play. Okay, that's not too bad. And then there's still like a ease in here, so I'm gonna just slightly. That's it. Okay, so let's press play, see how this looks. And so once you're done, you're gonna make a play blast. So to make a play blast, you're going to, you can leave the controls here, but I am gonna turn off the resolution gate that I have going on here. You can leave the reference image in your work in progress and make sure to have your frame number on. So under display, go to heads up display and then go to current frame. Make sure it's checked on. And then you're going to right click on the timeline, click on the option box for Play Blast. If you're on a PC encoding, you might have to just go through the different options. And then for a Mac, you're going to click on H.264, custom size 1920 by 1080, frame padding for save to files. Make sure that's checked on, and then you're going to give this a name. So by default, it gives it your naming convention. So what I'm going to do is just make this work in progress 001. And so if I ever go back and I edit this, you can. But you're going to hit play blast, and then here we are. Press play. I think the only adjustment I would do is adjust the camera and make it a little higher so that the top of the arm isn't cutting through there. And that's your Play Blast. Make sure to increment and save your scene. Really important. And then that's blocking as well as setting up your reference image. All right, take care.